thanks for coming. I know everyone kind of has busy schedules and it's kind of in the middle of the day, so I appreciate you coming here and trying to learn something. So my name is Tara.
And my name is Jena, and we are from the honors program doing the honors program's Capstone course, which is a class that is designed to allow honors students to find and tackle issues around the community.
Yeah, so our project is focused on mental health and physical health and how they're kind of intertwined with one another. So I thought nutrition is a good way to tackle both of those because we all eat food. We know how food makes us feel, whether it's good or bad. So I think this is a great way to learn about how nutrition is something that we deal with every day and how we can kind of educate ourselves on it a little bit more.
Yeah. So again, thank you all for coming, and please welcome Emily Wells from GVSU.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, it's nice to see all your faces. Thank you for joining me. So I'm going to step down. I've been told that if I stand up there, then the light is on my face. So I'm gonna stand down here. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about mindful eating today. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the impact of mindful eating on physical and mental health, and talk about some of the benefits there, and generally just kind of give you an overview. Nutrition and food does play such a role in our lives. Everybody eats every day, and there's a lot of information out there about food and about nutrition and how it impacts us. What's really cool for me is to see more conversations about mindfulness, mindful eating, intuitive eating, gentle nutrition, some of these concepts that really allow food to have a positive role in our lives and not so much the diet culture, negative messages that we sometimes hear about food and nutrition. So I'm really excited about this topic. I want to give you a little bit of an introduction to who I am. Like in our introduction, I teach at Grand Valley. So I work full-time at Grand Valley, teaching in our undergraduate applied food and nutrition program and our graduate clinical dietetics program. Both of these programs are designed to prepare future registered dietitians. In January of 2024, upcoming, all entry-level dietitians are required to be master's level prepared. So we have an undergraduate degree that results in a bachelor's degree in applied food and nutrition, and then we have a master's degree in clinical dietetics. So that's a little bit about what I do right now. I have been a dietitian for almost 10 years, and all of my experience is kind of centered on mental health. So when I started working in the field as a dietitian, I worked at Hope Network in behavioral health and got a lot of experience with psychiatric disorders, mental health, and how food can kind of impact that. I also specialize in eating disorders and disordered eating. I own a private practice currently, Emily Wells Nutrition. Very small virtual practice, but I work with patients one-on-one who have eating disorders or disordered eating. And I also have experience working in diabetes. I worked in diabetes at Spectrum Health, now Corewell Health, for 5 years, and did a lot of work on the intersection between diabetes and disordered eating or eating disorders, people with type 1, type 2 gestational diabetes, and the disordered eating component that some people were dealing with. So that's a little bit about me. I did my schooling at Michigan State and did my master's degree at Grand Valley. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm excited to be here. So let's dive in a little bit. I want to talk about general mindfulness basics. So mindfulness is a lot more common. A lot more people have awareness of mindfulness than maybe 5 or 10 years ago. So if we look at mindfulness as kind of an overarching theme, it is deliberately paying attention without judgment. This is a big cornerstone of mindfulness and mindful eating, is without judgment. There's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of good and bad type of language when it comes to food and nutrition. So using this mindfulness kind of cornerstone to help us look at mindful eating is really helpful. No judgment. Also looking at internal and external environments and influences. So When we think about being mindful of our surroundings, there's a lot of stimuli that affect our ability to do so, right? So we have internal, I guess, stimuli or thoughts or feelings, and then we have external, which kind of make up our environment. And these can be triggers, or these can be, I just saw it on Instagram, somebody talking about glimmers as the opposite of triggers, which I thought was kind of interesting. So all of these things that are surrounding us on our day-to-day lives are going to impact our environment and how we're feeling about it. And then the last kind of piece of mindfulness is what's present mentally, emotionally, and physically. So this is really going to help us when we talk about mindful eating, and we're going to do an activity at the end to kind of put this into practice, is to consider all of these factors. Thinking about emotionally, physically, mentally, what's going on and how that is impacting how we're feeling if we're talking about mindfulness as a whole, but also how we're eating and how we're feeling about what we're eating. So if we apply these concepts to mindful eating, we're going to narrow this down a little bit. So the first kind of philosophy with mindful eating is choosing food that's pleasing to you and that is nourishing to your body. Thinking about these things, it's not always why we choose a food. Right? We don't always choose a food that is nourishing. We don't always choose a food that's pleasing to you. There's a lot of other factors, but we can start to weed out and eliminate some of the decision making that we're making about food if we are mindful about the reasons why, right? Why are we choosing this food, and is it serving us? Is it serving us mentally, emotionally, or physically? The second philosophy here is acknowledging responses to food without judgment, right? Like we talked about with our mindfulness overview, looking at food decisions without judgment. This is how we build on the knowledge that we're getting from our food decisions, right? So if we eat something and we have the thought of, wow, that really didn't make me feel well, that made my stomach hurt, right? As a just general example. We can learn from that. We can take that information and move forward. But if we're using judgment in that statement and saying, I can't believe I ate that food, it made me feel so terrible, I'm really upset with myself, I can't believe I did that, that can start to kind of take you forward into a bad headspace and create a negative relationship with that food, right? I'm giving kind of a basic example, but it can be really easy to notice that you have these internal judgments that are happening without necessarily realizing it, right? And so creating some awareness around that can help us to identify how we're feeling about food, how it's making us feel, and then learn from it to move forward. The third point up here is awareness of hunger and satiety cues to guide your eating decisions. So this is a somewhat challenging aspect of eating and mindful eating, which is being aware of hunger and fullness. Now, there's some, you maybe have heard of this, hunger, fullness cues, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. It's a simplified way to look at it, right? But this is just one factor. Hunger and fullness and being aware of hunger and fullness takes some time to master, and it's just one of the reasons that we eat, right? One of the reasons that we make food decisions. So this gives you a little bit of an overview of what mindful eating is. And let's talk about the mindful eater. So the mindful eater embodies these principles and puts them into practice, puts them into action. So this shows you up here a little bit of an idea of what characteristics a mindful eater is able to do. So the one up here, in the red box, acknowledges that there's no right or wrong way to eat. If you think about what you think about food, right? How you look at food. Do you feel like there is a right decision and a wrong decision? Society tells us that there is. Society tells us that there's a right way and a wrong way to eat. Society tells us that if you are eating certain foods or a certain way, you're going to get chronic diseases and diabetes, you're going to have high blood pressure, you're going to have high cholesterol, all of these things. And if you eat the right way, you're not going to have any of those, you're going to live forever, and you're going to have a fantastic life, right? Both sides are exaggerated. Of course we're not going to live forever, but sometimes I wonder if the media makes us think that we are going to live forever, right? That with anti-aging and reversing aging and all of these like kind of marketing techniques and I don't know, sayings that are out there. So thinking about this, really thinking about what your opinion is about food, if you can eat a right or wrong way, I think is really insightful and really interesting, right? If you take a step back and ask yourself, if there is judgment involved in every food decision that you're making, that can make it challenging to have a positive relationship with food. Okay, in our next one, our blue box, accepts eating experiences are unique. What's interesting about this is this allows you to really reflect on the fact that every time you eat, something is different about it, right? Not good, not bad, not right or wrong, but it's different. And it gives you an opportunity to learn from it. It gives you an opportunity to identify what went well, what felt good, and what would you like to change, right? So maybe that's related to your hunger. Maybe that's how hungry you were going into that meal. Maybe it's related to how full you feel after. If you felt like it wasn't enough food or you want more food, you feel uncomfortable or you feel satisfied. Maybe it was the distractions. There were a lot of distractions, or it was really stressful eating with this person or in this space, or I really didn't pay attention to what I was eating. I couldn't even tell you how it tasted. So accepting that all of these things can happen, and none of them are bad. Like, oh, I ate in my car on the way here. That's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. It's a unique experience. For me, I ate my lunch at 10 a.m. this morning. I was hungry at 10 a.m., right? That's when I wanted to eat. That's a unique experience, and it's not right or wrong. It's not, oh, I should have waited until I typically eat lunch. I should have waited until noon. No, it's just how it happened. And then you can start to investigate, well, why did that happen? Maybe I was a little bit more hungry today. Maybe my breakfast was smaller. Maybe I went to bed hungry. You can start to gather information from that. Next one is directs awareness to all aspects of food and eating in the moment. This is really the classic definition of mindful eating, is only focused on food in that moment. This is challenging to do, right? It's not common that we're able to dedicate 100% of our time in that moment to just eating and being aware of food. But we can take this concept and start to eliminate distractions if we are having them, right? So if we're noticing that we are eating with the TV on, and that's causing some distraction, right? Then maybe we try turning the TV off and see if that changes anything. See if that changes our experience. There's no perfect way to mindfully eat, right? There's just awareness and improvements. Okay, next one is to look at immediate food choices, not distant health outcomes. I think that this is another one that kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with our right or wrong way of eating, that it can be easy to have kind of these thoughts about, like, if I eat this, then I'm going to get diabetes. If I eat this, I'm going to get high blood pressure. If I eat this, then I'm going to gain 10 pounds. And what that does is it creates fear around food, and it creates this kind of future messaging that, like, something bad is going to happen if I eat this. So trying to look at immediate food choices helps us become more mindful and helps us learn from it, right? So if we say, instead of, if I eat this, I'm going to get diabetes, and we say, if I eat this, I really am not going to feel satisfied. This isn't what I want to eat right now. It's a very different outcome, and it's a very different internal dialogue about food. All right, moving around the circle here, aware of unmindful eating and the effects. Now, this is important, again, where the non-judgment comes in, right? So we're aware of the times that we're not being mindful when we're eating. Maybe that's when we're in the car, maybe that's on the way to class, maybe that's when we're studying or listening to a lecture or whatever. We're not judging that. We're not saying, oh, I wasn't mindful when I ate this meal. We're just being aware of it and then looking at the effects. So looking at thinking like, oh, wow, okay, I wasn't very mindful when I was eating this meal, and now I'm feeling overly full. Or I wasn't very mindful when I was eating this, and I didn't enjoy it. It was a food that I know I enjoy, and I wasn't able to pay attention to my enjoyment of that food. Being aware of the times that we're unmindful allows us to learn from it and change something if we can, but not creating that judgment of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I do that all the time. I'm, whatever. I'm a terrible person, etc. These negative messages that we send ourselves. All right, moving up to this gray box. Insightful to how health goals are achieved by understanding experience of eating and feelings of health. So we're going to talk a little bit about this concept when I talk about benefits, physical and mental health benefits. But this is really helpful to think through what are the health goals that we might have. So again, we live very much in a weight-centric society. And so I think many times making food changes or changes in our lifestyle is associated with the desire for weight loss. But if you think about what your health goals are, what do you want to get out of your eating experience? It can make a big difference, right? So thinking about, okay, the meals that I want at breakfast, for example, need to satisfy my hunger, need to take me through until my next break from work, and need to sound good because I'm usually not all that hungry in the morning. So health goals that you're looking for are you're looking for increased energy and you're looking for just satisfaction in how you're feeling because there's not much hunger. So those are your goals. It's not, oh, I want the lowest calorie possible food or I want a food that I know is healthy. You're looking for a different outcome. Maybe you're looking for something, a food like before exercising, before a workout. And you have specific criteria. I want something that has carbohydrates, that's going to sit well in my stomach, not cause any, GI upset, and is easy to carry, is portable, right? So your goal with this is I want to have a successful workout and I want to fuel my workout. That's your health goal. So you can start to see how we're viewing food as a tool versus an enemy or something that we need to limit or restrict, which is different, right? It changes your opinion of it. And the last one is the awareness of the connection between earth, humans, and cultural practices. And this is important because food has a role in all of this, right? Food has a role in how we as humans kind of see ourselves and interact. And culture is very much tied with food, and the earth is where we get our food from, right? So having this kind of overall awareness. So that's a lot. That's a lot of pieces. But there may be one that stands out to you as, some of the things that I said maybe resonate with you about negative thoughts about food or using some judgment, and maybe you pick out one of these aspects of being a mindful eater and try to apply it and try to see what that would look like in your day-to-day life. Okay, so the next couple slides I'm going to show you some resources on mindful eating. These come from eatingmindfully.com, which is Dr. Susan Albers. She has so much really interesting content about mindful eating. She's got a couple of books that are out there. She focuses specifically on mindful eating. So there are different concepts between mindful eating. Intuitive eating is similar. I talked a little bit about gentle nutrition. So you're going to see very dedicated information on mindful eating. One of my favorite pieces of educational materials that she has is this mindful eating plate. Some of you have probably seen my plate, right? I'm sure all of you have seen it at some point. That breaks down what a plate should look like and how you would kind of divide that up between your grains, your protein, your fruits, your vegetables, your dairy. So this is a little bit of a play on that. And what I like about this is it reminds us that it's not just the contents of the food that we're taking in, it's the experience of the food that we're taking in. So some of these recommendations, I'm going to start with the purple, which is non-judgment. Purple is protein, so non-judgment is our protein. Speaking mindfully and compassionately, noticing when shoulds, rigid rules, or guilt pop into your mind. A couple things that I want to point out. Couple things that I want you to notice, right? So I want you to pay attention if you're using those should words. I should not be eating this. I should be choosing something different. Whatever. I shouldn't have had that donut for breakfast because now I'm not feeling well. Changing those. and learning from them, right? Being mindfully and compassionate, right? That donut tasted really good this morning, but now I'm not feeling so well. I wonder if I could make a choice that would feel differently tomorrow. Okay? So changing your language a little bit. Rigid rules are really, really interesting because they happen without us noticing. And then all of a sudden, like the one that I used earlier, I had my lunch at 10 a.m. And my immediate thought is, oh, I should have waited till noon. This is an example of rigidity, where we're kind of taught, and our working society tells us that we should eat lunch at noon. Doesn't matter what time you woke up in the morning, doesn't matter what time you ate your first meal, we should have our lunch at noon, right? That's a rigid rule. That's rigidity that a lot of, again, not to bash on society, but bashing on society a little bit, has taught us to be rigid with food, right? And that's where a lot of kind of antiquated nutrition advice and nutrition information has come from, is with kind of setting up these rules and just following these rules. That's how diets are set up, right? So being aware of those rules and trying to break them if it doesn't serve you. If it's helpful for you to eat at the same time every day, then that's great. That's serving you. Rules don't have to be bad, but when they're rigid, and what happens if we break that? What happens if we have a meeting at noon? What happens if we want to take a nap at noon? What happens if lunch isn't ready till 1 o'clock? How's that going to feel? So that's where you want to be aware of that. All right, let's go into orange. Orange is our grain, so savor is our grain. Noticing the texture, aroma, flavor of food. Is it crunchy? Is it sweet? Is it salty? Is it smooth? Is it spicy? What does it taste like? This automatically brings your attention back to the food and helps you to kind of block out some of those surrounding influences. We're not eating in a room with, nothing on the walls, nothing around us, by ourselves. Most of the time, we're not doing that. There's some sort of influence or distraction. So those questions of how does this taste, that one little question can help you bring your focus back to the food and kind of enhances the experience. All right, I'm going to go up here to the blue circle, which is our dairy. Awareness is our dairy. So tasting versus mindless munching. Okay, so thinking about, am I tasting my food or am I eating my food? Am I just taking this in? Again, underlying component of no judgment, right? Am I eating this and tasting it, or am I eating this to just get through it? Sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes you have to eat quickly. You know that you need some nourishment, but you have 5 minutes. You don't have time to sit and be mindful in what you're eating, and that's okay, but being aware of it, right, and noticing that. Okay, moving into observe. Observe is red, which is our fruit. Noticing our body. So noticing our food, noticing our body. Do we have a rumbling stomach? Are we low energy? Are we feeling stressed? Are we feeling satisfied? Are we feeling full? Are we feeling empty? This is giving you more information. How are you feeling before, during, and after eating something? This is also going to help give you more data, so to speak. So if you finish a meal and you're like, that did not feel good. Well, what about it didn't feel good? Was it the food? Did it not taste good? Did you not enjoy it? Was it something about your body? Were you really, really hungry before? And so that led to really intense hunger. You were eating quickly and now you're feeling very stuffed and very overfull. Maybe you're feeling stressed. Maybe food was just not something that you needed in that moment. But some of those shoulds pop back in. I feel like I should eat right now. So that's observing. And then the last one, which is our veggie, is in the moment, being present, turning off the TV, sitting down. When you're eating, just eating. Now again, this is very simplified. We can't always do this. It's not always an option to be able to eat in this way. But if there are components that we can control, trying to do so. If it's sitting down, maybe you can sit down. Maybe you have to eat while you're walking to class. Okay, can't do that. But maybe you pop your headphones out. Or maybe you ask yourself those questions of, how does this taste right now? Again, brings your focus back to what you're eating. So this is the mindful eating plate. I have been using this for a long time, so I should check and see if she has any an updated version of this. But I think it's still nice and relevant. Okay, and then these are a couple other things here. So the first one I want to start with is the whole body mindful eating. I'm going to pick out a couple of these. I know the text is kind of small. But every aspect of your body, the point with this is that every aspect of your body is involved in mindful eating, okay? So with our brain, we're focusing, we're having some awareness. With our eyes, we're looking clearly at what we're eating. We're focused on that. We're undistracted. We're listening for sounds that are coming from the food that we're eating. We're breathing deeply in and out, right? Our feet are on the floor, centered. We're sitting down. We're noticing how something tastes. We're chewing. We're smelling. So mindful eating is really a whole body experience. If any of you have done any sort of mindfulness practices or meditation or yoga, one of the things that's really common is doing like a full body scan or kind of walking you through a guided, I guess a guided meditation to thinking through each aspect of your body and how it's feeling in that moment. This is something that is commonly done at yoga for like full relaxation. So it's very similar with eating, emotional eating. The other thing that I want to point out is this physical versus emotional hunger. I think that this is a really cool guide as well because it can help you start to see what is guiding your food choices. Are they emotional food choices? Are they physical food choices? Do we have hunger? Are we choosing food out of, need for fuel, or we're feeling low energy? Or are we choosing food because for other reasons, right? That we're feeling overwhelmed, that we're feeling stressed, we're feeling sad, we're feeling nervous or anxious. What's interesting about this is that it gives you some guides into physical cues of hunger and emotional cues of hunger. But again, when you look at this, I don't want you to take this with judgment that eating because you're physically hungry is the right way and eating because you're emotionally hungry is the wrong way. That's not true. But it allows you to get some information because oftentimes emotionally eating is not the coping skill that is going to be helpful in that moment. So down here at the bottom, there are a bunch of distraction or soothing techniques. So what I want you to take away from this is if you're noticing that you're emotionally eating, I want you to ask yourself what else might be helpful in this moment that's not food. Maybe it is food. We eat for a lot of reasons, and eating because we're feeling some sort of way can be helpful, right? I don't think we hear that enough, that emotional eating can serve us in some way, but not always. And there are other ways that we can kind of self-soothe that may feel better than soothing with food. Okay, so great resources. She has a lot of really cool stuff. Like I mentioned, she has a book. I think she has either a book or it's like a free download that's 50 ways to soothe without food. And that's a really cool resource as well, just to give some ideas. Some of these types of lists I think are helpful to just like have posted somewhere. I had like a picture that's similar to this. It's like 50 things to do, I don't know, to make you happy or make you smile or something like that. And they're quick ideas. So like having it posted like on the refrigerator or something like that. Because oftentimes when we're feeling stressed or we're feeling anxious, you don't have like, oh, I could do this to make me feel better. I could do this. I could do that. I could do this. Your brain is in a heightened state of stress, right? And so having something in front of you, and she has some good resources for this, can be helpful to look at and say, okay, I'm going to do that and see if that helps bring my stress levels down. Another cool resource is Headspace. Headspace has an app, has some really cool meditations and mindfulness. Sometimes these are included, like if you're a student, or included with different insurances or whatnot. But they have a mindful eating like series on there that it kind of walks you through some different steps of mindful eating, which is pretty cool. Okay, I want to stop here and see if there's any questions before I go into physical and mental health benefits. Yeah.
Sorry. So I know like the My Plate posted by like the government or whatever, the actual My Plate.
Yep.
I know Harvard posted their own and it doesn't have dairy in it. I forgot what they also added and changed to it. But how do you feel about like the Harvard one compared to the one that you had showed us prior?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate has some really cool additions to it. I've used that plate quite a bit, actually. A couple things that I like about it. It adds water. So that's what it replaces with. This is not the actual plate, of course, but that circle is where dairy is, indicating milk, right? Okay. The Harvard Healthy Eating Plate subs out this milk on the side for water, which is crucial, right? Water, and dietitians have been saying this forever, water should be on the My Plate. It should be. Like it should be part of our meals. It should be part of our day-to-day. So that's one of the subs that they make there. And then they also add healthy fats. So there's like a little like olive oil pour bottle on that plate, which I think is also great. It doesn't fit necessarily with this. The My Plate, the government, the USDA My Plate is very simple, and fats don't like nicely fit into a plate because you're not going to have like a serving of fats, right? But they have a lot of benefits. So the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate added those things like olive oil and avocados and nuts and nut butters and those types of things. As far as dairy, I don't know if this is completely accurate, but I think the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate moved yogurt and cheese and cottage cheese over into protein, which is appropriate, right? I think eliminating milk as like that's where you should get your dairy is realistic for a lot of people, right? Drinking milk with 3 meals a day just isn't our norm anymore. I don't think that a lot of people do that. I think it's one option, right? If you drink milk with all of your meals and that's how you get your dairy, fantastic. Many clients that I work with are like, oh, I don't drink milk, or I can't tolerate milk, but I drink cheese, I eat cheese, I eat yogurt, I eat cottage cheese. It's more about calcium that we care about versus like drinking milk. So I think that's where the biggest shift came from. The Healthy Eating Plate does have some rules, some rigidity in it. Discourages red meat, discourages saturated fats, which I think is fine, but is also like we want to just eat a variety of foods in a balanced meal. So there's pros and cons to both plates. Great question. What else? Yeah.
Recently there's been talks about people are having cravings instead of taking away, adding to. So things that are led to satiety. How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the thought of if I'm having cravings, adding something, right, to contribute to satiety. I think the way that this kind of lines up with mindful eating is the awareness, right? We're having an awareness of like, okay, wow, I'm having, let's say it's a chocolate craving, because we're going to do chocolate in our little activity. Let's say it's a chocolate craving. Why am I craving this? What am I missing? Maybe it's the fact that you haven't had, like, you had the thought of like, oh, chocolate's bad for me, I can't have it in the house. The awareness of that is going to lead you to the next thought of, I need to add that. I need to add that in. How can I add that in a way that feels good? Maybe it's adding it to your lunch. Maybe it's having like some chocolate after dinner. So that's how I would approach it. I think that there's also talk of like, okay, if you're craving chocolate, what can we replace it with, right? So thinking about like, okay, chocolate has carbohydrate, has fat, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So we should add more of that into our diet. Doesn't necessarily work that way. Can't break down a food into the components because there's emotional connection to it as well. So that would be my thought is it's the mindfulness aspect of like, I have this awareness of a craving. I understand why, and I'm going to figure out a way to add it in a way that feels good. Good question. What else? Yeah.
What about children? What would you do to simplify this to help them grow in an environment that helps them understand, mindful eating and healthy choices, not necessarily the food itself, but the process.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've seen a lot of content about that lately, especially with Halloween being recent, right? Like, what do we do with all of this candy? And there's like people who do the switch witch, where they like turn in all their candy and get a toy in return. And so, the kind of intuitive eating dietitian community talks about figuring out a way that kids feel safe around that candy, not feeling like, oh, I'm going to eat all of this, or I can't have any of it, and leading them into that with questions, right? So questions like, how do our bellies feel right now? Do they feel empty? Do they feel full? That's helping bringing the awareness to those hunger and fullness cues. And also kind of leading them towards the thought of like, why don't we try eating dinner first, and then we'll see how we feel, how hungry we feel for candy afterwards, versus like, we can have candy whenever we want kind of thing, or no limits on it, because that's also not realistic. And that's not what we do for ourselves as adults, say whatever we want, whenever we want. So guiding them in a non-judgmental way of, we're all gonna have chicken tacos for dinner, and then let's talk about dessert and what we have and what sounds good. So using some of that language of how are we feeling, what sounds good, what's going to make us feel good, and then also modeling that, right? And modeling that kind of, I guess, structure and awareness, and verbalizing that, of saying, I feel really satisfied right now. They're going to start to copy that language and also start to recognize like how that feels. So with kids, we do have to provide a little bit more guidance and structure, because kids don't know necessarily like what's causing upset stomach feelings. So if it's like, okay, we're going to have ice cream for dinner right now, and we don't feel good afterwards, well, if we had kind of changed that message of like, yeah, go ahead and have ice cream and see how you feel, to typically we have dinner first, and then we can talk about how much ice cream, or if we're going to have ice cream, you may not even want it after we eat dinner. So some of that kind of language that's not so much like do what you want and see what the consequences are, but kind of leading them down the road of like, we're going to include both. We need to nourish our bodies, and we also need to nourish our minds kind of concept. It's tough though, because, especially talking about like the decision making with Halloween and with candy, it's like, how are they going to react? And how do we go about that without setting rules for it? And so sometimes the best strategy is just to not, and say, oh, I'll send that candy bar in your lunch tomorrow. Or like, I can't wait to send Halloween candy for you this week. And then they forget about it, right? Like, it loses its novelty. I only have a baby, so Halloween candy is not a thing. But for us, it's like, it's in there, it's in the cupboard, and then after a while, just kind of forget about it, right? And it's just, and he said, you're shaking your head, no. So I'm curious of your strategy. What did you do for the candy?
For her candy, we have it kept aside, and then she can have it as a dessert if she'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can replace one of her lesser nutritious snacks for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how does she respond to that?
Just fine with it.
Good.
So this is how we've always done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of keeping it limited to maybe weeks a day.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's great too, because it's like there's no end time on it, right? Like, I can send you Halloween candy as your dessert after lunch, after dinner, until it's gone if you want. But oftentimes it's like, okay, now we have Christmas stuff, and then we have Valentine's candy, and then Yep, absolutely. And so that's where you're letting the child kind of guide a little bit of like, maybe they want to do something else instead of the Halloween candy, right? And that provides some choice in the matter too, which is really helpful for kids. She's like, just the candy, just the candy. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Any other questions? Okay, let's talk briefly about some of the benefits. So mental health benefits, as we've talked, some of these are going to make sense, right? So overall well-being, overall psychological well-being, you are creating positive internal dialogue specifically around food, but food is a big part of our lives, right? Eating multiple meals and sometimes snacks throughout the day, having positive messaging is going to impact the rest of our overall day. Increased pleasure when eating. Body satisfaction. This is really, really interesting because we're not doing anything to change our bodies. We're not doing anything specifically around body image or awareness of body. But when we are taking time to reflect and be aware of the food that we are putting into our bodies, it automatically creates this, for lack of a better word, positive environment, right? Where it kind of transfers over. I'm taking care of my the food that I'm eating, nourishing my body, eating in a way that feels good. We notice, and me as an eating disorder dietitian, I notice that when my clients are eating in a way that they are feeling satisfied, they're feeling full, they're eating foods that they feel good about, the body distress that I notice goes way down, right? Because you can't separate what you're eating and what you're putting into your body from how you feel about your body. You just can't. So there's a lot of overlap there too. Allowing for a positive relationship with food, increasing exploration of other coping skills. This is really, really helpful, right? So if you're finding, wow, I'm mindlessly eating or emotional eating quite often, it can really push you into thinking about what are some other coping skills? What are some other things that I could do instead? Maybe that's leading us towards doing some meditation, doing yoga, going for a walk, or other activity. Maybe it's some deep breathing exercises. Maybe it's writing or doodling. Maybe it's napping or trying to improve our sleep habits, right? The awareness of emotionally eating and using food as coping isn't working. I need to try something else can be really, really impactful. And then overall self-esteem and confidence. The confidence piece, I think, is from taking time to improve our eating environment and working hard at it. Anytime we're working hard at something or we're invested in something and it's going well, it's going to improve confidence and overall self-esteem. Okay, some physical health benefits. Improved digestion. I didn't talk a lot about this, but something about mindful eating is the speed of eating, how quickly we're eating, if we're taking time to chew our food, and this can improve digestion. If we're eating really quickly, we can be taking in a lot of air or just not able to digest food as easily. So some mindfulness. There's also something to be said about stress levels. If we're like running place to place, trying to eat, trying to fit lunch in, and it's just crammed in with a bunch of other stuff that's going on, that has an impact on our gut. There's a lot of research out there that talks about the gut-brain axis and how stress levels, anxiety, heightened emotions have a big impact on our gut health. So mindful eating can help with that. Improve our connection with hunger and fullness and respond to that a little bit more accurately, respond to hunger and respond to fullness cues. Increase pleasure when eating. Chronic disease prevention. So I want to talk a little bit about gentle nutrition here. One of the cornerstones or one of the concepts associated with intuitive eating, which is similar to mindful eating, is gentle nutrition. Gentle nutrition is the concept that we don't just eat whatever we want, whenever we want. We eat foods because they provide us nutrition and they provide us fuel. That's not the only reason that we eat. There's a lot of reasons that we eat. But having some mindfulness about how we feel after eating and how we feel about certain foods can improve the nutritious food intake that we're having because it encourages balance, right? And it encourages us to find value in all types of foods. It also helps us to kind of make that connection between foods that nourish our body and foods that nourish our mind. Both are important and both serve us in different ways. Going back to when I was talking about health goals, there's nothing wrong with having goals for our overall health, right? Maybe we want to get stronger. Maybe we want to get faster. Maybe we want to build lean body mass. Whatever it is, food can help us do that. It's not the only way that we do that. But food does have a role in being nutritious and being fuel for our body. So one of the benefits of mindful eating can be increasing our nutritious food, right? The other thing to think about is if we're not restricting any foods, we're not restricting dessert foods or fried foods or whatnot, and we incorporate those more readily, sometimes they lose their appeal a little bit, and allows us to expand and find value in all of those different foods. When I was looking through some of the research about mindful eating, weight loss and weight maintenance popped up. It's not a reason to pursue mindful eating or intuitive eating, but it is an outcome that some people can see. And then support and fuel physical activity, like I mentioned. Okay, I've got about 10 minutes. So we are going to do a little mindful eating activity. So I have chocolate kisses that I'm going to pass around. If you don't like chocolate or want to eat chocolate or can't eat chocolate or whatever, feel free to eat something else or just kind of listen if you would like. Everybody got one? Okay. All right. So first step is to close your eyes. We're going to do an exaggerated mindful eating exercise, right? Typically, you're not going to eat a full meal with your eyes closed. But we're going to do that today. So close your eyes, find a comfortable spot in your chair. So this might be leaning back. This might be putting your legs out in front of you. You might look a little bit silly. That's okay. We all have our eyes closed, except for me, but I'm not going to judge you. I want you to start listening to your breathing. Deep breath in, deep breath out. If you practice any sort of special breathing, like a 3-part breathing or square breathing or any of those, go ahead and do that now. And while you're focused on your breathing and listening to that, I want you to pick up the piece of chocolate that's in your hand, or not in your hand, and roll it around. How does it feel? What's happening in your body? How are you responding to it? Maybe you notice your mouth watering, or your thoughts are drifting to how that chocolate might taste. Go ahead and start unwrapping it slowly. I want you to smell it, touch it, take a look at it. If you want to open your eyes. Now place the chocolate in your mouth. Let it melt in your mouth. What do you notice? Are you tasting the flavors? What's popping out to you? Do you notice how your body is responding to this? Do you feel more relaxed? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel hunger kind of creeping up? Maybe you haven't had lunch yet. Notice how you're responding. Now I want you to compare this to something else that you've eaten today. Are you noticing more of what it is tasting like? Is your mouth watering more? Is anything different? Are you noticing, wow, this is the strongest tasting chocolate kiss I've ever had? Okay, you can open your eyes. So again, this is exaggerated, right? Because you're not going to sit super relaxed with your eyes closed, but it gives you an idea of what mindfulness can do. Does anyone want to share reactions, thoughts? Did you notice anything different? Last longer, yep. Anyone else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. That's something that I think when I've done this in the past, you notice just how sweet chocolate is, right? It's something that I really enjoy chocolate for the mouthfeel, right? Like coats your mouth, it melts in your mouth. But when you only focus on it, you really notice all of the different flavors, especially like a milk chocolate is a sweeter chocolate. And you may find I don't really actually like this that much. I prefer dark chocolate or I prefer white chocolate. No one prefers white chocolate. I'm just kidding. Some of you might. So I want you to think about that. Again, this was just an exercise, but think about how you can incorporate this into some of your daily eatings and your meals and your snacks. Okay. I did pretty good with time. I've got, looks like 5 minutes or so. What other questions do we have? questions about mindful eating, intuitive eating, general nutrition? Burning questions. Yeah.
You had mentioned chronic diseases. Other than heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, what would non-chronic diseases
Heart disease, and heart disease can be, multiple things, but could be high blood pressure, high cholesterol, some of those. Trying to think what else I would consider like a chronic diabetes, kidney disease could go along with that. Those are the big ones. And it's what it is that, some of it is just that's what research supports, but some of it is just having this wide array of food and having the overall health, the full body health. So, yeah. What else? Yeah.
So my aunt, she takes a lot of probiotics and like advertises a lot for gut health. So I've only gotten like a probiotic drink a couple times, but like, would you say getting probiotic drinks, like, should people be drinking those regularly or only if they need to? Or like, how do you think, does that really make an impact if you eat or like drink probiotics regularly?
That's a good question. Probiotics are a big, like a hot topic right now. So a couple things that I would say. Number one, all yogurt has probiotics. Every single yogurt. Doesn't matter if it's Yoplait, Meyer brand, Activia, Chobani. I could keep listing yogurt brands. They all have probiotics. They have live active cultures in it. Okay, so they have good bacteria, good gut bacteria. So if you're eating a variety of foods, including yogurt or kefir, drinkable yogurt, then the necessity to buy probiotic drinks or probiotic infused products or supplements isn't necessary. I do recommend probiotic supplement for people who have done antibiotics. So antibiotics clear out all of the bacteria in your gut completely. That's the point of them, right, is to eradicate whatever bacteria is causing symptoms. But it also wipes out good bacteria. So doing a 30-day probiotic supplement can help reestablish some of that good bacteria. So that's the only time that I recommend it as a supplement form. Some people try it, like if they have GI distress or GI upset, and find that it can be helpful. But I usually recommend yogurt as a go-to, because it's affordable and it tastes pretty good, and they all have active cultures or probiotics. Good question. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, so intermittent fasting with the like normal, whatever, 16 and 8 or whatever it is. So basically like not eating breakfast and fasting. I always tell people if that pattern works for you, then do it. That's fine. Going the long windows, like going a whole day or 12 hours or whatever, the research doesn't support, and it creates a binge restrict type of cycle, or it can create a binge restrict cycle where it's like I'm not eating anything and then I can eat anything and everything I want. That's not how our bodies are designed, right? Our bodies are not designed to have that type of feast or famine type of intake. I mean, at one time, I suppose, we're able to accommodate that, but wasn't ideal. So the kind of traditional intermittent fasting where there's a period of time, I always tell people, like, if that's your pattern and you're not like counting down the minutes until you can eat, fine. But in the context of mindful eating too, it completely takes away cues. So you cannot listen to hunger or fullness cues or any sort of environmental cues to eat if you're following like, I can't eat during this window. The exception, of course, is religious fasting, right? Because that is part of, Ramadan, part of a person's culture, and that there's importance with that. Intermittent fasting is often, not for non-religious reasons, is often for weight loss. And that's not necessarily central to a person like religious fasting. Good question. What else? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. This is fun. I'll stay for a couple minutes if anyone has any questions, but yeah, have a great rest of your Thursday. You're welcome. Thank you.